But we want to bring you in now and set with us as former acting secretary of Homeland Security and executive director for the America First Policy Institute, Chad Wolf. So great to have you here in studio with us, sir, this morning. Okay, so the vice president, our border czar, says that, her focus is the root causes. She's now asking and saying that we need more money to go to these countries that have the highest border crossing. How is that going to stop what we're seeing here?
Well, it's not at the end of the day. Look, I don't think anyone really believes that she's passionate and dedicated to this mission. She comes up and does a couple of events from time to time, but she really is talking about sending money to Central American countries. What she has failed to realize is that those countries are no longer sending the majority of folks to the border, right? It's less than a third are coming from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. Yeah. It's the rest of the world knows that border is open. So she is focusing on a very small portion of what's going on. And again, this play is a 20 to 30 year play trying to build up their institutions down there.
Yeah.
It's why don't you control and why don't you do what you control, what the U.S. controls, which is actually border security, and take some measures that work at the end of the day. And she's not doing that. This administration's not doing that. And they could be doing a lot more.
Yeah, and that plan, by the way, hasn't shown any tangible progress over the last 2 years, sending money to the Northern Triangle countries and trying to stamp out illegal migration where it begins, in these countries. A couple numbers for you. 1.5 million gotaways under Joe Biden that we know about. 4.5 million illegal crossings under Joe Biden. Pat Fallon, Andy Biggs, both members of Congress, Arizona and Texas, calling for the impeachment of Alejandro Mayorkas. Greg Abbott with a tweet yesterday showing that, look, we're building the border wall on our own. What message does that send not only to Joe Biden, but to the American people about how seriously everyone else seems to be taking the border crisis?
Well, I think the message is the federal government has failed in its responsibility to protect communities and Americans along that border and really in the entire United States. And it takes a governor like Governor Abbott to say, okay, look, the federal government's not doing its job. I'm going to step in. I'm going to devote Texas resources, Texas taxpayer money to build a wall and to do a variety of other things that he is doing and that others are doing. And it's a shame. It shouldn't have to be that way. The federal government and governors should be working together, but the federal government should be leading. Instead, they're leading from behind as usual with this administration. And you see governors like Governor Abbott or Governor DeSantis taking the lead on border security. It's never happened before in the history of our country. It shouldn't be happening now, but unfortunately it is. And thank God that they are actually stepping up and doing something.
Yeah, State of the Union tonight. Do you expect the president to address the border and the fentanyl crisis, or do you think he'll just point the blame and blame Republicans?
Well, he could address it, but he is likely going to say this is Congress's fault. And only Congress can solve this issue, which is a complete lie. Joe Biden and his administration and his policies got us into this crisis. He can, if he has the leadership and the will to get us out of this crisis. What we've seen over the past 2 years is he won't. He won't make those hard policy calls to take something like a Remain in Mexico and reinstitute it and a variety of other things. He won't do that. So you're going to continue to see this crisis. And it's not Congress. Congress can pass a bunch of laws, but if you're not going to enforce them, which we see they're not doing when it comes to asylum fraud, when it comes to removing illegals in the interior, inside the United States, he's not doing a variety of different things. So Congress can help around the edges, but it's up to this administration. They have all the tools and all the authorities they need to do their job and get this border under control. And I know that because we did that back in 2019 and 2020.
Yeah.
Brian, I know you're based down in D.C. I want to bring up this DirecTV thing as it relates to Newsmax. So 12 months ago, it was OAN. Democrats, of course, were in charge in Washington, and it was OAN, not CNN. That's why we didn't see hearings. Now it's Newsmax. Republicans are in charge, so we're expecting hearings. But what do you make of why this is happening? And with the State of the Union happening tonight, that something like this, censorship like this, can still happen and is happening in America?
Well, I think this is just one more, sort of step that we see big tech and big media doing to conservatives across the board. And it's a shame. Look, people want alternative ways to get to their news, right? You have the CNNs and you have Fox and MSNBCs, but a lot of people don't turn to that for their news and their coverage, right? They want unbiased, and they want to turn to people that they trust. And whether it's Newsmax or others, they want the ability to get that. And we being the federal government, should be in the capacity to provide them that. And so I'm looking forward to those oversight hearings. Look, the Republicans in House, they've got a lot to do. There's a lot of things to focus on, but I definitely think that this is one because there's no good explanation. I haven't heard it. Perhaps you have.
Yeah.
That's why, it's so important to just for everybody to reach out to your congressman, make these changes happen.
Chad Wolf, come back and see us.
Okay.
We appreciate it. Great having you on set,
Thank
too,
you,
by the way. A lot more coming.